It is another episode of Money Talks. It is John Gibbons, and much more importantly, I have a financial football expert, football finance expert, Dave Powell with me. But you say expert, I've got notes this week. Basically, Paul's been in on work experience, and he's going to make me look smart. So I've got extensive notes. So if I seem more intelligent this week, which is I know is a low bar, if I seem to know what I'm talking about, it is all the credit to Paul. So there we look, notes.
Notes. You'll notice I've got none. So
yeah, you've got the brain and the instinct. I need all the help.
Watch me bluster through this next half hour now. So.
Well, Liverpool Football Club certainly aren't blustering. We talked last time about the fact that they were having a big summer, and it looks set to get even bigger. And I think what surprised a few people is that after the early splurge, if you like, on mainly Foley and Verts, but not just him, the others as well, there was an expectation that Liverpool might have to balance the books a little bit more here, but it looks like they're going to go for the centre forward even before that, which and not just any centre forward, but one who's going to cost a lot. They've tried apparently for Alexander Isak, who's possibly the most expensive forward on the market. It looks like they might have to settle, in inverted commas, for another exciting player, Hugo Ekitike. I keep saying that differently, but still not a huge amount of change from £100 million Euros. So has John Henry found some money down the back of the sofa? What's going on?
No, I mean, we're still in the same financial year, so whether they did, whether they recouped the money in 6 weeks' time or 6 days' time, the thesis remains the same. So I think they would have bided their time over the Ekitike and Isak interest. But like we saw in 2022, was it, when Tottenham made a move for Luis Diaz, back end of that January window, Liverpool weren't going to go for him till the summer, and they jumped into it. So Spurs make a move for Ekitike, who's obviously been on Liverpool's radar.
Newcastle,
made a move for Ekitike, been on Liverpool's radar. And you have to stick or twist, and you kind of say, well, if you're signing Ekitike, you're effectively signing a player who's going to play in the same position. Now Eddie Howe plays one through the middle. Do those, are they both going to be on the pitch at the same time? I don't know. However, it opens up the conversation for one or the other. So if they're signing Ekitike, fine, they'll take Isak off your hands, give you a lot of money to go and spend and strengthen the Champions League window. All right, if you don't want to part ways with Isak, guess what? We're just going to take Ekitike from you anyway. So, and now they've turned their attention to Johan Wisper and Newcastle. So, shows they've kind of conceded on the face of it, I think, defeat in that particular race. But Liverpool can afford it because, we spoke about this time and time again about having strategy in place and being able to balance the books and having given themselves significant headroom when it comes to PSR, whereby, still from this position now, if they signed, £120 million player, so whether it's spending £80 million on Ekitike and another 40 on a central defender or another forward player, and they're still able to kind of lose 200 million plus in this current financial year and still be PSR compliant. So it speaks to the strength of the football club financially, because they have kept their powder dry, for want of a better phrase, I suppose, in recent summers. Last year, limited spend. Chiesa came in, but the actual Mamadashvili deal was actually one that belongs to this year's financial accounts because it was a deal which was ultimately included in it. But they've got themselves in this position through strategy. So, it's a rare one, isn't it? Because whenever we've come to this, the criticism for so long around FSG has been risk averse, not spending at times when they should have. But when they won, we said this last time I was on, when they won the Premier League in 2020, coming out of that into that summer, into COVID, a lot of uncertainty, no one wants to spend a great deal of money. Market's a bit different. All depends who's on the market as well. So I think this week was more reactive than I think they probably would have wanted to get some players out before committing to new additions. Not because of failing to meet PSR obligations or anything like that. It's because there is a real tangible thing called cash, which has to change hands between football clubs. And Liverpool doesn't tend to carry much cash in the bank compared to the Premier League football clubs. So I think last year they had 7 or 8 million in the bank, What they do is cash for the business through money in, money out, and they have a credit facility of about 300 million with NatWest, I think. So that's largely how they lean on their. I wish my credit facility with NatWest was 300 million. That's how they finance their transfers, but I think they would like to start recouping some funds and get a bit more certainty about what's coming back. But I don't think that'll impact the Ekitike deal at all. I think once that's done, I think the focus will be on what happens with Darwin Núñez and others like Luis Diaz, Harvey Elliott, etc.
Yeah, okay. I take your point on PSR, but they've been had wiggle room for PSR for a while, but haven't necessarily spent the money. Is it success that's been allowed them to maybe be a little bit more outgoing? Do you think it's maybe the position of Michael Edwards and he's convincing sort of in his place? Is it the fact that I've seen a bit of talk about the stadium developments and stuff like that, and the fact that they're not building anything at the moment, and that might help free up a little bit of cash. Is it a combination of things that has allowed them to loosen the belt a little bit?
Maybe it's just a change of dynamic at the. Success. If in order for Liverpool to be a investment success for FSG, they need Liverpool to be a success on the pitch. So you have to invest in one thing to get the other. So it won't just increase in value if the team stinks. It might do a little bit, but they want to build something which is going to be part of what football looks like in the next 10, 15, 20 years, which would be this huge behemoth which just is all encompassing, takes over every single corner of the globe. So, but there's also maybe a bit of change in dynamic around the decision-making policy. Now I know Slot came in, and I don't think he's a yes man at all. I don't think Jurgen Klopp was a yes man, but I think Jurgen Klopp was far more. This still isn't Arne Slot's team. It's really, he probably feels like he has not really added much of his own parts to it. And you've got Michael Edwards back, who obviously not in Liverpool per se, part of FSG football, but then you've got Richard Hughes in. So maybe the decision-making process at this moment in time is about. This is a summer where they have the ability to spend big and maybe just take the hit on some of these things, because you look at the kind of profile of player they're signing, it's all about building what the next, so I imagine they'll probably sit out. Next summer's not going to be as explosive as this summer. It's hard to imagine.
Shame.
Yeah, this summer's going to be, this summer's fun. Yeah. Next summer might be a bit more dull. But, which is even why the Isak deal almost teeters on the brink of what FSG would want anyway, I think, because he's 25, be 26 later this year. But he's still a young man. But I think in terms of real long-term value, I think you've kind of got like one contract and an extension out of him, and that's kind of, then he's into his 30s, So I think this is all about forward planning. The summer before last was a bit around that, but also they need quality, proven quality to come in, Premier League quality. A few of these in the Ekitike one, we don't know how he'll cope, what he'd be like in the Premier League. But there's a few more, a bit more willingness to kind of take a risk and take a fly, I think, this time round. But yeah, success enables clubs to pay bigger fees of players, bigger wages, because they're in the Champions League again, obviously next season, Premier League winners. And I think how good they were in the league phase of the Champions League last year, and beaten by the eventual winners in the round of 16, having won the first leg of that, probably shows that they are closer than may have suggested by the last 16 exit to really being a dominant force in Europe. And it needs, but to get over that hump, they needed real quality in a few other areas.
I just wonder whether, I don't know if you saw the footage of Linda behind the bar in the Kop, and I just wonder whether she just sold so many pints that we're just turning it into a superstar.
I'd probably buy extra pints.
I mean, so for the anecdote, right? Remember the time you bought a pint offering
yeah.
sort of why not? Maybe that is why we're able to splurge. Okay, we are going to go on to talk about the Club World Cup, but I do need to give a shout out to one of our partners, which is Sailey. If you are going on holiday this summer or you're going on the tour like we are, or you're an international businessman like Dave Powell flying about here, there, and everywhere, you don't want to worry too much about extra roaming charges, scary bills when you get back for your phone, or just not being able to get online at all. And that's where Sailey come in. It's an eSIM that you download straight to your phone. It's really easy. It's so easy. I've been able to do it. So you download the app, you say where you're going, you choose a data plan and things like that. And then as soon as you land in that country, I'm assured, I'm going to test it out in 3 days, so I'll let you know, but I'm assured that as soon as you land there for us in Hong Kong, it clicks straight through and you can use your data. Loads of our subscribers have got in touch with us, said how easy it is to work, how you had data over and things like that, and how cheap it was. And it is even cheaper if you use the code TAW and you get 15% off. There we are, 15% off your data plan with the code TAW. So thanks a lot to Sailey. We're really looking forward to using it while we are away. And thanks a lot for so many of us who've got in touch, who've used it and have given us some fantastic reviews. But World Club Cup, Chelsea, I mean, they don't need to worry about data. They're flying, they've got loads of money, unlimited text, whatever it is you want. They have made, Paul tells me here, £84.5 million from the Club World Cup, which will buy you a Katika if they were able to persuade them. It's not bad.
They are the football equivalent of a cat landing from, on its feet after being thrown from a high-rise building. Yeah, I mean, their position in the Club World Cup kind of came from them winning the Champions League in one of the COVID years with 21.
Yeah.
So earned their place there. However, it wasn't until early part of this year that FIFA was still scrapping around to try and find a broadcast partner. Eventually, DAZN, which is how. Only recently I learned that's how you're supposed to say it. It's supposed to be DAZN, as in like
the zone.
The zone. That's supposed to be what it is. The zone, and it blew my mind. They paid $1 billion for the rights, gave it away for free. It was on Channel 5, but I think for them they predominantly do boxing. They have a lot of agreements in Europe wide with Major League, etc. But predominantly boxing, but in North America they really wanted to try and cut through. So that's what it did. Anyway, that money allowed their FIFA to put up a big bag of cash to get clubs to compete. Last year, Carlo Ancelotti, when he was Real Madrid manager, was saying, unless the money was more, we wouldn't send our best players. So that sent FIFA into panic mode, needed more money, because they'd already promised that it would be cost neutral to FIFA and it wouldn't take money out of the prize, their own kitty for football development. So anyway, tournament happens, a big noise around lack of crowds in some games, which is true. I think for one of them it was 3,500, was it Urawa, Red Diamonds and Mamelodi Sundowns, As someone whose mother's South African, I would happily go and watch some Mamelodi Sundowns in Philadelphia, wherever it was. But in the main, the actual latter stage of the competition, capacity was in the 90 plus percentage, and Chelsea came in with a big bag of cash, and Donald Trump was there, and Cole Palmer announced himself onto a stage with a whole new kind of cohort of fans a year out from the World Cup. So for Chelsea, the past month has been transformational for them, I think.
So do you see Trump called a tremendous sport, football? It's a tremendous sport, which felt like a real boost for those of us who've
surprised he didn't lay claim to having scored a hat trick in the World Cup final. Although, as someone there is a clip of Donald Trump doing the Rumbelows Cup draw from 1992.
So he's got a long association with the game.
I think he drew us against like Rochdale or something like that. So, but yeah, it's here to stay though. So it's every 4 years, yes. But to me, the success of it financially for Chelsea, and I mean, FSG would have looked at that and thought, if only. But I can't see a way where they don't try and change the entry requirements for clubs. So it's in FIFA's interests to grow the game globally to have Liverpool, Manchester United involved, Barcelona. For everyone else,
But it didn't have the English champions, the Spanish champions, or the Italian champions, and how you find a way around that, I'm not sure, because you need a bit more planning and to necessarily know. But I think, like, you know, that's the only. From a good, well, it's the only thing. There's a lot to unpick, pros and cons of this tournament. But I think if they had the time again, they'd have Liverpool and not Salzburg.
Yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. Because they want big clubs with big fan bases that can draw crowds to, and it's not just it's not just the crowds coming to watch the games. It's the draw for broadcasters. So. Yes, DAZN committed to this one for a huge fee. The success of it, how they determine that, I don't know. Maybe the eyes and the ears on them as a broadcaster and a streamer globally. Maybe that's worth the outlay for them. But they hemorrhage cash to DAZN anyway. I mean, yeah, they love losing money. But it was. I know everyone, but the naysayers would say it was a real. Kind of damp squib, etc. But it wasn't really. I think FIFA see it as actually being a success.
Well, there's some good games.
So there's some good games.
Some good stories, a couple of shocks, and then a pretty decent final in the end. There's certainly sort of the way it turned out. And like you said, a star performance from a star player, which is kind of, you know, what you want. I don't think Chelsea are the ideal winners for them necessarily, but it's good for Chelsea. Do you think it's good for Chelsea generally, not just financially? I mean, they get this big pot of money, you know, £84.5 million. I think £79 million of PSG. So they've not done too badly out of it either. But do you think there'll be other benefits to Chelsea, and other financial benefits or other benefits in terms of status and what they're able to say, on top of this big chunk of money dropped down their chimney by Father Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, commercially, you can leverage the fact that you are the club world champions for the next 4 years. You know, it's meaningful. You can, it's something they can.
You might not struggle for this shirt sponsor.
We spoke about this a while back about the reason they didn't have one was because competitive success had eluded them for a couple of seasons, and so the value they wanted wasn't there. So they were like, well, rather than accept a lower value and run the risk of not being able to get that back, they kept it blank. So now they're going to be able to go to market again in the future for all sorts of deals and get more. But the marketability of it, so every tournament kind of needs a star, someone to light it up and really take control of it. And you look at all the successful tournaments, whether it's a World Cup, Champions League, that's kind of always had that. Cole Palmer was great, and I think Manchester City probably kick themselves now for not giving him the platform to do what he does for Chelsea now, because his market value now, I think CIS, which is the Swiss football data analyst, they pegged his market value at probably 130 million, 140 million. Seems about right. And in North America, he's quite unassuming. He seems very he's himself.
He's relentlessly himself.
Unashamedly and relentlessly himself. And I think that played quite well, and they used him for marketing and this, that and the other. So I think Chelsea have found someone that has a foothold in that market now and could actually, and with the World Cup on US soil in 12 months' time, could be a tool for them again to leverage. So that, they'll have one of the stars of the World Cup out there who maybe months ago we weren't really thinking in that respect. But America is where football wants to, all big European sides want to try and win the market share of, and Liverpool have got a huge fan base in the US, Chelsea less so, but I imagine for some fans who may be undecided and maybe the first time they've really engaged in competitive games involving English teams has been on US soil, and Chelsea won it, and they've got they had some memorable performances from players like Cole Palmer to go with it. So I imagine it's helped them drive up their own audience in the US.
I want to talk a little bit about the financial implications for the teams who didn't win it as well, because Chelsea, like I said, get a large amount of money for PSG and Real on the next two. So PSG £79 million, Real Madrid £61 million. It's not bad, but for Real Madrid, it's probably not going to be the difference between them winning the league or not next year. Listen, they'll be happy if the money and everything helps, but you don't see Real getting that money saying that's a game changer. But for some of these other teams, so Fluminense is one that we've got here, £45.4 million. That's a lot of money to go back to the Brazilian league with. And you know, is there a concern? I don't think there would be concern for Fluminense, but what that does to those domestic leagues is always quite interesting to me. And you see that in the Champions League with the team who manage to sort of get in, the likes of Copenhagen and things like that, who just win and win and win sort of relentlessly. Listen, then maybe they would anyway, but, you know, Benfica getting to sort of £24 million. It's a good windfall for them, isn't it? And it's not necessarily great news if you're in those leagues trying to catch them.
No, but, you know, I think it's certainly the case of Benfica. I mean, they've been a huge club since forever, but they exist in the Portuguese domestic league, which is what I think is ranked as the 8th strongest in European football. So, you know, these clubs deserve the cash they get, you know, because more often than not, the only time they're getting money is by having to wave goodbye to their best players all the time.
Yeah.
And that in itself weakens the domestic league and the attractiveness of it to broadcasters when all the players leave, you know. So the more money some of these teams have, whereby they don't have to wave goodbye to their best players and they can start spending some money to bring good players to their leagues, that should really raise the interest of broadcasters in showing those leagues. But from a competitive standpoint, yeah, I mean, it's success becomes baked in, doesn't it? So especially if you're in a smaller market league. I mean, I live 5 minutes from the New Saints. Obviously, they're Welsh Premier League champions, but they qualify for the Champions League every year and get the hundreds of thousands that comes with qualifying for the Champions League. The team that finishes second gets, you know, a bag of, you know, Percy pigs and a pat on the back. But it just allows them to, they've built like a stadium, a whole functioning ecosystem around the club.
Liverpool played them in 2005.
Yeah, and it allows them to they pay good money to players and they're full time, no other team is in the league, and it becomes impossible to compete against. But they would argue with it, they're the only ones trying to fly the flag for Welsh football, even though they exist in England. So yeah, I mean, but it's hard to deny those clubs the chance to earn some good money, because might not be a regular occurrence from all the time, because the way the actual entrants were decided, it wasn't based on who was the champions of, you know, this and the other. So, you know, Chelsea got in and haven't been Premier League champions for a good while. So I think maybe it is the right thing to not have, you know, the biggest teams across the board in the competition, because it might run the risk of skewing domestic leagues. But I'm sure, you know, Fluminense and Benfica would be absolutely delighted to actually have some cash in the bank and not have to say, you know, sell their best players as a result.
And maybe they'll go back and spread it about through the power of transfers, who we shall see.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's how it's the game.
There'll be someone in that ecosystem
and
that rely on
Benfica. They're likely sign within their own ecosystem as well, which means the money does get recirculated.
Yeah. We'll finish on Man City and Puma. They have signed the biggest kit deal in English football, I do believe. It's £100 million a year. It's across 10 years. So I've done the maths. That is £1 billion. A cool bill. A cool billion. It's up from...
Big, beautiful bill, as Donald Trump would say.
It's up, I am told on my wonderful notes, from £65 million a year from last time. Manchester United was £900 million with Adidas. It trumps the Liverpool one, I do believe, with Adidas as well. It's how they managed to do it and how they're able to do it. Now, Man City fans sit here and argue and say, well, we're the most successful team in England over the past 5-10 years, so why shouldn't we have the biggest kit deal? Some other people might say, well, Liverpool and Manchester United still sell more kits, still have more eyes on them every time they're on the telly. So how are they doing it? They've got a great commercial team.
They made a good decision to partner with Puma in 2019, because Puma aren't going to take to the market like Nike and Adidas have, because they can't afford to have a pool of all the biggest teams. So Manchester City is their biggest commercial partner, their biggest kit partner. They have other big teams like AC Milan, etc. But For Puma, the Manchester City deal is kind of their centrepiece. So they provide the kits for one of the most successful teams in world football over the past decade. They've done a lot of different initiatives, whether it's in the US, and they did like a block party shutdown in New York last year where Jack Grealish was DJing. The last time I seen him in Man City kids. And they've been quite, they sell a lot of shirts through City. Now, they don't sell as many as Liverpool or Manchester United. The Man United deal was, I think it was 900 million over 10 years with Adidas.
Yes.
Liverpool's is done 5 years. Now, Liverpool could have engaged in a market whereby they would look for the same kind of deal as United got with Adidas. They're probably never going to get the same as Puma, because Puma have gone, this is like a relationship where Puma haven't got many other big clients, and they're not going to do one for, the same kind of deal for a number of teams. That's Man City leveraging the power of, they have almost over Puma with that, because if they leave Puma and Puma are left with a struggle to get back into the space with English teams. So Liverpool prefer to, or certainly in recent times, preferred to do 5-year deals, because after 3 years they're already going back to the market and looking at what the value of the market is, what can be done, how they can pull revenue streams in from different places. Now, the money, the figure that's been quoted in some places, I've seen 60 million, I've seen 80 million. It's probably in between the two of those, but also it's important to understand that while it's not exactly like the Nike deal, they still get additional monies from what's sold in certain demographics. They get money from how well they perform. So all of a sudden that starts to raise that fee up, So no one truly knows the value of the Adidas deal apart from those who negotiated it for Liverpool. So, I think there's a case to say it won't be far off what United are doing, really, because Adidas know full well, and Liverpool know their worth as well.
Yeah.
It's not like they've, Liverpool are thinking, well, we'll accept less than what Manchester United do because why? The champions, the Premier League champions, I've got the ability to, they've got, according to Tom Werner, they've got 1 billion fans out of the 8 billion that exist on this earth. So they should really be top dogs. However, yeah, it's important not to read into the figures too much when it comes to that, because Liverpool's is far more layered. The problem is when you have a 10-year deal is that what is a good deal in 2025, in 2030, inflation in the market might be different. So thereby 100 million a year, some clubs might be getting 120, 130 million a year for some of these deals. So locking yourself in for a long period of time, yes, it's valuable, and it gives financial security over a period of time, especially when broadcast revenues are starting, domestically anyway, starting to decline or showing signs of decline. Owners look for financial certainties. But Liverpool are have the ability to be a bit more nimble in that respect. And also, it's kind of a good thing they didn't go so long with the Nike deal, because it never really felt like a good fit. Now, it's different for Man City and Puma, because I don't think there's any real problems between the Man City fans with the kits that are provided, apart from that horrific one that just had like Man City across it, if I remember.
yeah, it looked like a knockoff.
They did one for Dortmund as well. It looked like something like you get off like...
I'll buy you for Christmas.
Or you're on holiday in like Fuerteventura or something. It's just like floating in the breeze and in a market storm in front of my beach. But yeah, there's been no real problems with it, whereas I think Liverpool really wanted to try and tap into the history and tradition with Adidas. So I think you can look at that £1 billion as being, that's great, but it's not. Man City don't need to be too concerned about spending money. But it really has probably given the rest of the league a little bit of a leg up with negotiating as well, because they've effectively set a fair market value for what is, a valuable piece of sponsorship inventory. So all it's going to do is just raise the stakes for everyone else. But Liverpool will be able to go back and revisit theirs far sooner than everyone else.
There we are. Anything else on top of your head before we let you go?
I'll go on holiday on Saturday.
That'll be nice.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, got my Chester towel. Got my Chester towel. Got it for Father's Day.
Yeah, when you said we, you drew us against Rochdale. It's important to point out that you mentioned.
Yeah, it wasn't Liverpool against
It wa-
Rochdale,
the
although that
mighty
has happened
Yeah,
previous times.
the mighty Chester.
So looking forward to being the only man in Gran Canaria with a Chester shirt. So,
Well, enjoy the sunshine.
good Lord, I knows I need it. So,
Tom, man, thanks a lot to Sally as well.